Good morning, guys. Just wanted to go over the noredink.com process for your writing of your essay. In both Google Classroom and in PowerSchool here, you'll notice here's the one for Tuesday. You'll notice the link to No Red Ink. That rhymes. I'm Dr. Seuss. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. And it takes us straight to the tutorial on writing a persuasive essay. This tutorial you must go through, right? The only way you can skip it is if you are the teacher, which you're not. So go through and make sure that you're understanding the purpose of a persuasive essay, what it does, and what's expected of you during the writing of this persuasive essay. An op-ed is technically a persuasive essay. So I'm just going to kind of click through this pretty quickly. You've probably already gone through this yesterday. All right. So it goes over the different parts of the essay. I am going to skip this in a minute. It tells you what you need to do in every single section. So make sure that you're reading through that information. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip the tutorial to take us straight to today's stuff. If you haven't yet done this tutorial, please make sure you do. All right. So we have the prompt in the left hand, on the left-hand margin here, the prompt for our class. I still have to upload the rubric at this point, but the prompt is here. So what are the words you do not yet have? What do you need to say? Now, remember, this has come straight from our Audre Lorde article. What are the tyrannies that you swallow day by day and attempted to make your own until you will sicken and die of them, still in silence? This quote by Audre Lorde suggests that we all sit in silence about injustices in our lives, about which we should speak out. What do you stay silent about or see others stay silent about in regards to language, gender, or culture? Narrow down your topic and write an op-ed piece for a newspaper in which you argue for change. Consider your audience and what will work best to convince them. Now, it is an op-ed piece, so an op-ed piece is usually persuasive. Before you begin, you should really need to think about, well, first of all, what's my topic? What is the injustice? I've heard a couple of really great topics from students over the last couple of days. I'm going to highlight Paloma at the moment, because Paloma had this great idea about, again, education, looking at education and those students who don't have access to perhaps the resources that they need to have access to. I mean, things like mental health resources, support those students who don't have support at home, where to reach out. Now, our school's pretty fortunate to have many of those things, but there are a lot of schools out there that don't. So perhaps in Paloma's argument, she's going to be trying to persuade others that these resources are necessary. So now that if she narrows down her topic to that, one of the things she needs to now do is figure out who is her audience. This is an injustice that she's seen and that she wants to speak up about. So who is she going to speak up to is the next question. Because who your audience is really determines what you're going to write. It really determines how you use ethos, logos, and pathos. If you're speaking to students, then your ethos might simply need to be another student. If you're speaking to administrators or to school boards, your ethos needs to be a little bit more solid. So you need to have shown that you have the ability, that you've researched this information. You need to really show that you've gathered your sources a little bit. And although you may not be the expert on this in the moment, you're an expert by proxy because of all the research you're doing, because you're bringing in other people's ethos to join your own. For logos, if you're speaking to people who already agree with you, you probably don't need too much logic because they're already on board. But if you're speaking, once again, to administrators, to people, this is going to cost them some money, right? This is going to cost them some of their own resources. They're going to have to give up something to provide you with this. And you need to really convince them that it's going to be worthwhile. So you might want to make logical arguments about the cost of these things. You might want to make logical arguments about the benefit of these things. How does this benefit students? And then, of course, pathos. Pathos is your emotional argument. Depending on your audience, it's going to determine the level of pathos. If you're preaching to the choir, if you're preaching to those people who are already converted to your point, your purpose is probably more likely to get them on board and get them kind of getting out there and voicing their opinion right along with you. So your language is going to be very emotional, right? You're going to have a lot of pathos. You're going to be trying to pump them up. If you're speaking once again to administrators or others, your pathos, you're going to be attempting to try to get them to see things from the perspective of a student who's in need of these resources, or from a school community for whom these resources would make life easier. So if these students were taken care of, it would impact the rest of the school. So you need to kind of show that in your pathos a little bit. And that pathos, remember, comes down to diction or word choice. It comes down to, are you going to use anecdotes in your essay? Remember Henry, our story about Henry in David Brooks's article. It's a particularly that I encourage you to think about using anecdote, because it's particularly powerful in terms of convincing people. Because if they can actually put a name to these experiences that people are having, if they can actually hear a real story, they're more likely to get on board. It tugs at their heartstrings a little bit more. So, for example, if I was Paloma, maybe I would put in, I know she had done a lot of research on these students who didn't have the support. So she may put in some information about one of those students, right, and kind of tell their story a little bit. All right, so all of those things need to be in place. So you need to be thinking about those things before you even start your essay. All right, so let's continue on. Once you are ready to go, I wouldn't even worry about the title right now. I go straight to your introduction. And I wouldn't even worry too much about the intro except the thesis statement. What is your purpose? Remember, in all of the articles that we read, we highlighted thesis statement because we found that was the writer's purpose. We were looking for writer's purpose. You also need a purpose to your essay. Otherwise, there's no point in writing it. So what is your thesis statement going to be? What are you asking for? What are you calling for? That is your purpose, and that should be woven into your thesis statement. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to, again, you can always come back to title, but I would go ahead and click on introduction, and it'll take you to a spot where you can actually type it straight in. You can do the same thing with your body paragraphs. Now with body paragraphs, I really, on the left-hand side here, it gives you some help with your introduction, gives you some tips and tricks. You can kind of scroll through a couple of pages there. There are tutorials, some examples, so that you're able to click on it. It's really, really handy to make sure you're doing the best possible job there. This is going to be helpful not just for this essay, obviously, but again, for college. Go have a look at how to put this together properly. So your introduction, if you wanted to start with your thesis statement and just go ahead and click on that, then you can go ahead and click on that. Come back to your hook later. You'll get some information on how to write the hook. Again, if there's any part of this you need, there are tutorials here. So go ahead and type your introduction in there. Once you're done, you can go on in and add your body paragraphs. For your body paragraphs, you must have topic sentences, right? As you'll see over here, you'll see what a topic sentence. Why should your readers agree with your thesis? Your topic sentence should always link back to your thesis statement. After your topic sentence, you need to provide some evidence for this. So you've said, this is a reason my readers should agree with me, and here's why, right? Here is the evidence to suggest that what I'm saying is true. But that's not enough just to add the evidence. Then you need to explain your evidence. Why does this evidence matter? How does it support that topic sentence? Expand. That's where you expand on your topic sentence and your evidence and talk about what benefit this will have in your particular scenario. So you're going through your body paragraphs like that. Obviously, once you're done with body paragraphs, you come down to your conclusion. You enter your text for your conclusion, right? Conclusion includes a summary of your argument and a so what statement. So there's information on how to do that here. There's this short tutorial. This is the best format I can use when I can't be actually with you in the classroom. I think in the classroom I'd still use this because it's particularly helpful. All right, that's pretty much it for that tutorial. Let me just come on down. So I've written all of that. That's when you can kind of work on submitting. All right. I don't think there's anything else. I just wanted to make this video. I was planning on explaining this during our office hours today, but many of you aren't showing up to office hours, and that's okay, right? You do get extra credit for office hours, but I wanted to make this video to attach to today's lesson so that you had some kind of guidance on what the expectation was. Now, this is due on Friday. This is your only work for the week in my class besides read theory. Remember, 100 points in read theory went from Saturday, that's the Saturday that's gone, to this coming Friday, the 10th. Make sure it's done within that time period, but also this needs to be done within that time period. All right. Miss you guys. Take care.